The year is 1646. You're 17, barely a man, standing in the courtyard of Olesko Castle as morning mist curls around your boots. Your father's voice cuts through the fog like steel. Remember this day, Jan. What you see now will shape the destiny of Europe beyond the castle walls. Smoke rises from burning villages. Ottoman raiders move like shadows across the Ukrainian plains, swift, ruthless, unstoppable. You smell the ash. You hear distant screams. You watch entire communities erased by fire. And though you're only a boy, something deep within you hardens. You are Jan Sobieski, heir to a bloodline that's been fighting the Turks for generations. Your grandfather died at Sikora, cut down by the same empire, now torching your homeland. His blood runs in your veins, and it burns like prophecy at this moment. You cannot imagine what history has already written for you. That one day, you will lead the largest cavalry charge in human history. That your name will be whispered in prayers and in fear. But in 1646, all you know is smoke and lost. Be wide the time you're born. The Ottoman Empire is a machine that devours continents. Its borders stretch from the gates of Vienna to the deserts of Yemen, from the frozen Black Sea to the shimmering coasts of North Africa. 15 million square kilometers ruled by fire and fear. They've crushed the 1,000-year Byzantine Empire, enslaved millions of Christians, and turned the Mediterranean into their private empire of trade and terror. Their armies are an engine of perfection. The Janissaries, Christian children stolen, broken, and remade into killers. The Sipahi cavalry archers who can loose arrows at full gallop with the precision of rifles. And their artillery, modern thunder that reduces stone fortresses to dust in a single afternoon. But their true weapon isn't steel. It's psychology. They don't just conquer, they reshape entire civilizations, turning faith, fear, and family into instruments of control. This is the world you're born into, Jan. A world that will force you to become something more than a soldier, a weapon crafted by destiny itself. You grow up in a world where bedtime stories are war reports. Your father, Jacob Sobieski, commands Polish forces against Ottoman raiders. Your mother, Teofilia, carries the blood of the great Hetman Kuski killed fighting the Turks decades earlier. Every generation of your family bleeds for the same reason. Survival. In the halls of Olesko Castle, you learn that the world beyond the walls isn't safe. You hear tales of entire villages vanishing overnight, families taken in chains, their names erased. You see refugees pour in, faces hollowed by fear, whispering about children stolen for the defame the Ottoman system that harvests Christian boys like crops, training them to kill their own kin. To you, these aren't just stories. They're warnings written in human pain. At 14, warnings become reality. The year is 1648. The Khmelnytski uprising explodes across the frontier. Your supposed Cossack allies turn on Polish nobles, fueled by Ottoman gold and promises. You ride beside your father into chaos, villages burning, churches desecrated, the air thick with the stench of betrayal. It's your first taste of real war. You watch men you knew since childhood die in fields of mud and smoke. The Ottomans don't need to invade. They let others do the killing for them. Their genius lies in manipulation, setting neighbors against each other until a nation tears itself apart from within. By 18, the scars of that uprising have barely healed when another nightmare begins. The Swedish deluge. Foreign armies carve Poland like butchers dividing a carcass. Every border burns. Every town falls. And you want the boy watching from castle walls now led cavalry charges under black skies. Your sword on heavy but unbroken. You fight the Swedes, the Cossacks, the Russians, and the Turks, sometimes all at once. Each battle hammers your soul into something sharper. You learn that heroism isn't glory. It's endurance. It's the refusal to surrender when the world around you already has. Every victory costs more than it's worth, but every loss teaches you something the Ottomans will one day regret. That you understand how empires think, and how they can fall. You are 19, and you do something few men of your rank would dare. You volunteer to become a hostage in the Crimean capital of Bakhchizari. On paper, it's diplomacy. In truth, it's espionage. Your mission? To study the very people who have haunted your nation for centuries. The journey south feels like descending into another world. The Crimean Peninsula is beautiful, but its beauty hides cruelty. Slave markets line the streets, rows of men, women, and children reduced to numbers. Merchants bargain not for goods, but for souls. Each voice crying out in a dozen languages. Polish, Russian, Greek blends into a single sound. Despair. You walk among them, silent, memorizing everything. The Ottoman system isn't chaos. It's order perfected for oppression. You see how they turn faith into a weapon, forcing conversions not out of belief, but obedience. You see breeding programs that treat humans like livestock, designed to erase entire bloodlines. You see the machinery of empire turning human suffering into economic strategy. And yet, in all that horror, you also see weakness. Their empire is vast but stretched thin. Their governors feud for power. Their supply lines bleed resources. Their armies rely on fear more than loyalty. The same precision that makes them powerful also makes them fragile, too rigid to bend when war comes for them. Every face you study, every command you overhear, becomes part of a silent blueprint forming in your mind. You are no longer just a nobleman's son. You're a weapon being forged by observation and restraint. When you finally return home in 1654, you're not the same boy who left Olesko Castle. You carry secrets that could shatter an empire. You've seen the Ottoman heart, and you know where it beats weakest. From that moment, your purpose crystallizes. Every campaign, every alliance, every breath will lead to a single point in time, a reckoning that will decide the fate of two civilizations. History may remember you as a king, general, or a saint, but you know better. You're the sword your ancestors never lived to wield. Years pass. The fire in your chest never cools, only hardens. You rise through the ranks of Poland's armies, earning respect not through birthright, but through victories won against impossible odds. The boy who once watched his homeland burn now commands the men sent to save it. And yet, even as you climb, you begin to see something that frightens you more than the Turks ever could. Europe itself is rotting from within. By 1669, the map of Christendom looks less like a shield and more like shattered glass. Kings quarrel over borders while villages burn. Priests argue doctrine while armies march under different banners. The great powers Austria, Venice, Poland, the German states share the same enemy, but not the same vision. Each one believes the others will bleed first, and across the horizon, the Ottomans watch. They don't need to conquer immediately. They just wait. They fund rebellions here, sign treaties there, whisper promises of golden power to whichever Christian prince listens longest. They have perfected a game older than war itself: divide, deceive, dominate. In Rome, Pope Innocent I sees the danger too late. He calls for unity, a holy league to gather the shattered pieces of Christendom under one banner. Venice pledges ships, Austria its fortresses, Poland its cavalry. But behind the oaths, distrust festers. Each state guards its army like a secret. Each general fears betrayal more than the Turk, and the Ottomans exploit every hesitation. They sign peace treaties with one hand and sharpen their scimitars with the other. They promise trade to France, rebellion to Hungary, and silence to anyone who dares look too closely. Their grand viziers play diplomacy like chess, every move made decades ahead. Then comes 1683. Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa. Pasha gathers the might of the empire, 150,000 veterans, battle-hardened and merciless, backed by the most powerful artillery in the world. Their destination, Vienna. Their purpose, not conquest, but extinction. As the Ottoman tide moves west, Emperor Leopold flees his own capital. Church bells stop ringing. Families dig graves before the enemy even arrives. And far to the north, in Poland, a messenger rides through the night carrying a plea written in trembling hands, a letter addressed to King Jan III Sobieski. The world is burning again. And the boy from Olesko Castle finally understands what he was born to do. Summer 1683. The plea from Vienna lies open on your desk, ink smudged by the messenger's blood. Emperor Leopold begs for salvation. The Holy Roman Empire's armies are scattered. Venice is locked in the Mediterranean. France, under Louis XIV, secretly aids the Ottomans to weaken his rivals. Europe stands alone, except for you. King Jan III Sobieski, once the frightened boy of Olesko Castle, reads the words and feels every ghost in his bloodline rise. The screams of enslaved children, the burning villages, the endless raids, all of it led here. This isn't politics. This is destiny. You sign the Treaty of Warsaw, binding Poland to Austria's defense. Your pen may as well be a sword. When the ink dries, the greatest cavalry army in Europe begins to move, 18,000 winged hussars. Their armor gleaming like liquid gold, their lances crowned with flattering pennants that catch the sun like fire. They are not mere soldiers. They are relics of a vanished age, living echoes of crusaders and knights. Each man knows he might die before dawn, yet rides with a faith unbreakable. Their gear is poetry and steel, 19-foot copiers built to shatter enemy formations. sabers curved to slice through armor with a dancer's grace. War armors and pistols for the chaos that follows the charge. And above it all, the wings arches of ostrich and eagle feathers rising behind them, whispering with every step. They are not decoration. They are declaration, symbols of divine vengeance that make even hardened enemies falter. You ride at their head. Your armor bears the marks of every war you fought. At your side hangs the sword your grandfather once wielded against the Turks. The same blood now calls you to finish what he began. The army moves south, through towns scorched by Ottoman raids, through villages where only stone foundations remain. Every ruin is a reminder of what failure would mean. Your men march not for glory, but for survival, for the right of their children to wake without chains. When they stop at the sanctuary of Częstochowa, they kneel before the Black Madonna, the sacred icon of Poland. Priests bless their weapons with holy water. Feathers tremble in the wind like angel wings. In that moment, faith and fury become one. The march resumes faster now, desperate. Scouts return with grim news. Vienna's walls are collapsing. The city can last a week, maybe less. Every hour of delay costs thousands of lives. And as the army crests the final ridge above the Danube, the fires of Vienna flicker on the horizon, the same color as the flames you saw as a boy. The circle is almost complete. The boy of Olesko is gone. Only the king remains, and he carries the wrath of centuries in his heart. Dawn, September 12, 1683. From the heights of Karlenbeck, you look down on Vienna wrapped in smoke and flame. Below, 150,000 Ottoman soldiers encircle the city like a living storm. Drums thunder. Cannon fire shakes the ground. The flag of Islam flutters above a sea of tents that stretch farther than sight. And between that dark tide and the broken city walls, only you stand. 76,000 Christian soldiers have gathered under your command. Austrians, Germans, Italians, and Poles. Different languages, different flags, but one prayer. If Vienna falls, Christendom dies with it. The plan is simple and suicidal. You will attack from the hills, crush the Ottoman flanks, and drive straight into the heart of their camp before nightfall. Every general knows its madness. You call it faith. The battle begins at sunrise. Austrian infantry descend first, slamming into the Turkish front lines. For hours the earth screams, muskets crack, cannons roar, bodies fall by the thousands. The air turns black with gunpowder. You wait, watching, timing every movement. Because your weapon isn't yet unleashed. By afternoon, the Ottoman line starts to buckle. Kara Mustafa's artillery hammers Vienna's walls harder, desperate to break through before your charge begins. But you see at the moment the tide shifts, the weakness forming at the center. You turn to your riders. 18,000 winged hussars lower their lances. Feathers whisper. Horses paw the ground like thunder trapped in flesh. For God, for Poland, for Vienna. You raise your sword and the mountain moves. The charge descends like divine judgment. The earth itself trembles as 18,000 armored riders crash into 150,000 men. Steel collides with flesh. The roar drowns the cannons. The Ottoman front shatters. Panic spreads faster than death. Men drop weapons and run. You cut through their ranks like a storm of iron and wings. Within hours, it's over. The greatest siege in centuries ends beneath your hooves. Kara Mustafa's camp burns, his banners trampled into mud. The Ottoman dream of conquering Europe dies on that field, buried beneath the thunder of polished steel. You dismount, the air thick with smoke and blood. Vienna's bells begin to ring again. Weak at first, then louder. Like a world waking from a nightmare, you close your eyes and see the courtyard of Olesko Castle. The boy you once were, staring at distant fires, watching villages burn. And you realize this was always the destination. Every battle, every scar, every loss, all leading to 30 minutes of perfect violence that changed the course of human history. The world calls you King Jan III Sobieski, savior of Vienna, defender of Christendom. But you know the truth. You're still that boy from the mist, only now the fire burns behind you.